between being a niche versus generalist. Actually, I think I have the actual, yeah, I have the slide share for that. Okay, so basically, I started off my career as a generalist, and the benefit I got to that was I was able to really experience a lot of different worlds and gain different knowledge, just by exposure. I got to meet different people, and it's stimulating. Um, the part I didn't like about being a generalist was that my bank account wasn't as big as that I thought it should be. And so really what I learned is that when you have a niche, and I've tested this out multiple times now, there's a lot of benefits because number one, you level up your reputation faster, which means you also make more income faster. Your income becomes more scalable and stable. Um, your portfolio grows faster and you become really knowledgeable about a specific industry and audience. And then it becomes really easy to sell yourself, right? Um, it actually saves you time in a lot of ways because number one, it gets easier and easier to do your job. So you save money on the front end, but also you save money on the back end by saying no to things that are not in your niche and that would just waste your time. Right. Because I used to say yes to everything. And look, I think for people who are in certain local areas, I think local is actually a niche in itself. So you could work with different industries in that situation, right? But if you live in a big city, or if you live in an area where there's lots of businesses and industries you can go into, or if you want to work on like a more nationwide level or something, you really need to pick a niche, in my opinion. Now, if you're in the really beginning stage of your business, I think it is actually okay to stay a little general because it doesn't hurt to just kind of get a feel for what's out there, especially if you don't know what niche you want to be in. But if you could figure out what niche you want to start to try, then that'll help benefit you in a lot of ways. Um, the reason why you make income faster is that what I noticed is that every time you go to a new industry, you end up having to pay your dues again and take lower rates for jobs because they're like skeptical and they don't know if you can do it. So you end up sacrificing more to like get the job. So like if you just did, obviously jumping from weddings to corporate is a huge example, but even within the corporate world, like if you just did like shot cars, right? And then somebody's like, okay, now I need like an explainer video for my startup, and you don't have any of those videos, they're not going to care if you shot a really cool car video, right? Because it's just totally different niches. And the reason why I learned that is because everybody in their industry has a different set of problems and customers that they're going after. And so they want to feel comfortable that you understand their industry because that knowledge of their industry is going to shape a better product for them in terms of what the product you're offering. Right? Like it's just a fact. Like different industries have different solutions required to get the job done. And so the more that you become knowledgeable in one, then it just shows when you're talking with people, and it's really easy to start raising your rates because when they start seeing a body of work in one area, then you're just going to get better clients and you're going to be able to charge more. Now the cons to that is you don't get a variety of experiences because you can get stuck in a niche and then that just becomes it and you're just doing the same things over and over again. But um, so for me, like in the beginning of being a generalist, I don't really regret it because I really loved experiencing different things and I think it helped kind of round out my worldview. But again, like I started to really hate doing the same thing over and over again. Also, what I realized is that my referrals, being a generalist, were not that good because what happens is um, people don't know how to talk about you or how to think about you. So back in the day, my referrals used to be like, hey, this is Henry. He does video. I don't know if he does your kind of video, but maybe you could talk. that is a terrible referral. That is not a vote of confidence. That's not the kind of referral that does the job for you of selling you, right? Like when you are really good at something or an expert in a niche, then what happens is the referral changes to, hey, this is Henry. He does real estate videos. He's really amazing at what he does, and he kicks ass at real estate videos. And then the realtor feels more trust. And then that person referring you is actually doing half of your job for you. Because statistically, when you get a referral from someone as opposed to a cold outreach, it's a lot easier to close the deal. I don't know what percentage, but it's quite a bit more. And that all comes from being able to teach people how to think about you, right? So that's why it's really important to think carefully about this. Like I said, you know, as a generalist, you get more experience in different areas. You could have diverse knowledge. If you really need variety in your life, then I could understand that. But you also have to accept the fact that maybe you're going to waste more time and make less money. And every time you go to a new industry, you're going to have to start over by lowering your rates or making more sacrifices to get the job. And also your portfolio over time starts to look, it's very scattered, and it'll take longer to look solid, right? Because, you know, if you have 10 videos and 3 of them are in the car industry and 3 of them are with dentists and 4 of them are with restaurants, and then you get somebody that has a, you know, fitness company, you still have 0 videos in their industry, and then you have to convince them to hire you because, again, clients have not that great imagination.
See,
Now, if you're
I'm in. Sorry,
go ahead.
I just want to say I'm in that boat, and what I've tried to do is I've just grouped every single type of video I've done into its own page on my website, and I don't think that's working. So,
Yeah, you could group it, but again, this is about intentionally going out to get clients and building a reputation in a niche, right? Like
right.
even if you group it on your website and you're just presenting yourself as a general videographer, you're not really building an actual reputation. You're just looking like, it's like the difference between presenting a small buffet with like 3 or 4 items versus like going to like the best pizza place in town or like the best hamburger joint in town, right? Like, even, you know, and a buffet is like, how much food would you have to have that's amazing before you build that kind of reputation? You know what I mean? Most people go to buffets because it's cheap. You know what I mean?
All
I have a
right.
question.
Yeah.
Henry, how many niche do you have?
I currently have 4.
4? Wow.
Yeah, but I didn't start like that. So I basically had I was a generalist before, which is no niches. I started doing
Yeah.
commercial production servicing, which is really like working with agencies to execute their campaigns, which is a specific niche. And then I decided to test out my own niches. And the first one I did was real estate. And, you know, I did pretty well, but I determined I didn't actually like it. But the point is, I actually tested out all this stuff on that niche, and I was like, okay, this is very doable. And then I decided to replicate it into startups is my main niche, and then cannabis industry, and then now I'm also developing like kind of remote like product video commercials.
Okay.
But the thing is, I did not expand that until I mastered the one, because the cool thing about mastering a niche is that that becomes a skill that you could then easily replicate into other niches, and you could test out other niches very rapidly. But it's a lot harder to do that if you haven't tried it in one first. So that's why it's like learning a new language, right? Like if you learn
Right.
your first second language, then after that it becomes a lot easier because you've created the framework in your mind of how to learn and how to approach that problem, right? And so then you can replicate. So I think the challenge is you want to pick 1 or 2 at the most, and then really, really commit yourself to getting through that process before you decide to open something else up. Okay.
How do you work on a niche that like you're passionate about, but it's not gonna make you
Oh,
money?
we're gonna go over that. We're gonna talk about that, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I want you to think about a couple things. First of all, videography is going to become very saturated like photography got. As the technology lowers the barriers for entry, more and more people are going to do it. Video is already, what's funny is like 2 years ago, people weren't talking about video the way they are today, right? Like if you look at marketers and stuff, I remember some articles like, oh, do you need video for your business? And it's like, for me, I'm like, yeah, you need fucking video. And then, but like marketers are just like, oh, I don't know. Do I need to sell video? And now I see all the top marketers being like, video is the most important form of content. You need to master video, So it's like, we are kind of lucky that we are in the industry, which is the most valued form of content on the planet now. Right? It's the most effective. It gets the most conversions. It retains the most customers. Everything about it is the best. And so we're already there, but it's a rapidly evolving and growing industry like anything. And so therefore it's going to become saturated. And when it becomes saturated, guess what? If you own a niche, you will profit longer and you will be able to evolve. Okay. So this is why you need to figure out a niche or two to really own and build a reputation, because as it becomes more saturated, what's going to happen is each industry is just going to look towards the leader of their industry, right? Like if I'm a fitness company and I sell, vitamins and protein powders and stuff like that, I'm not going to go to, if I have money, right? Like poor people go to anywhere, right? Again, this goes back to the analogy. Like if you don't have a lot of money, you go to the buffet. But if you have a lot of money, you go to the place where you're going to get the best of what you want. So if there's a company who has a lot of money, they're not going to pick the guy that has the general portfolio. They're going to pick the guy or girl who has the best in their niche, right? Because they're going to want to work with that person. So now is the time to really dominate and get into a niche that you care about, that is profitable for you. So that way, once it becomes really saturated, you've already planted a flag and built your foundation so that you can stand out amongst other people. Does that make sense?
I've got a quick question.
Go for it.
So, when you're starting out, I know obviously it's definitely better to niche down.
Yes.
Do you think it's better to just have like one and just focus solely on that? Or should you have like, maybe two, so you can kind of so if one's not working out as well, you have, one, that way you can see like which one works out well?
I think two is fine. I wouldn't do more than two. I think, especially in this day and age, two is maybe even better than one to start. It does replicate a little bit more work that you have to do up front, but I'm going to show you guys how to deal with that. But it is true. Like if it doesn't work out for you, then you'll have one. But even when you have the two, I would kind of treat it as like an 80-20 thing where, you're putting 80% of your energy up front on the one you want the most, and then 20% on the other, so that way you're not just splitting it half and half, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I've definitely figured out the two areas that I'm trying to get into.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll get into that. Now, basically, if you don't know what niche you want to be in, then I have a way for you to workshop that, which is basically you create a worksheet with sorry, I took 3 industries, but I meant interests, or 3 categories. Okay. So first of all, you want to make a list, 3 lists. One is your areas of interest, one is your areas of knowledge, and another is your areas of opportunity. The reason why you're doing this in the beginning is if you don't know what niche you want to go into, you're going to have to use a system to start narrowing it down. But to narrow it down, first you just start brain dumping and you brainstorm, and you don't judge yourself. You just literally write everything you can think of for each of those areas. Areas of interest means anything you're interested in. Anything that excites you, that you're interested in learning, that maybe you want to try that you've never tried before, all that stuff, you just start brainstorming, okay? And don't ask yourself, does this make money? That comes next. Next is areas of knowledge, which is going to be less than areas of interest, which is what are the things that you actually have knowledge in? Like, you know, for me, because I worked in banking, I understood, you know, mortgages and the real estate industry a little bit. I understood the financial industry a little bit. My dad was a general contractor, so I understood about construction a little bit. I know a lot about comic books, not very valuable, by the way, but you know, and then you know, if you have hobbies, right, then you have areas of knowledge. And then the last list you're going to make is what are your areas of opportunity, meaning what industries or niches do you know people in that could potentially refer you work, right? So if you look at your friends list on your phone book, like what industries are all these people in? They're the people that you know that you could call and ask for advice or ask for help. And then those are three categories that then what you're going to do is you're going to circle the top three for each category, right? And then see if there's any intersection. You know what I mean? So for me, the reason why I started real estate was because I noticed that I hit, that was one of the things that was in all three categories, right? I had an interest in it. I had experience working with realtors and I knew realtors. Okay. Cannabis is another industry that hits all three. I smoked plenty of weed. So I have an area of interest and knowledge. And I know people that
Yeah.
you know, yeah, and I know people that are in the business, right? So that's an area of interest. Same thing with startups. I you know, have worked with startups in the past. I have knowledge because of the fact that I worked with them. And I know a lot of people that work in startups because I'm in the Bay Area. So that became a category, right? Comic books didn't hit that market for me because I have an interest, I have a knowledge, but I don't know anybody in the comic book industry, right? So when you're starting off picking your three niches or your initial niches to brainstorm is you want to see if you could find something that hits all three potentially. The third one in terms of opportunity is probably the least important because to be honest, you can make your own opportunity. But definitely if you have some knowledge and interest, it's going to help you. Because what happens is when you're pitching people on this, you could talk about it and use the language that they're familiar with or refer to the things that they understand in the industry, then you're already building trust, right? All right, so now what you're going to do after that is you know, and this is something you're probably going to have to refer back to in the course because it's I go into it real in depth on the videos, but you're going to go ahead and take your niche and you're going to check it against these get a temperature for it in these social media platforms. First, so you go to Google Trends, and then you're gonna type in the industry, and then you're going to see if over the past 5 years, what has the trend been? So actually, I'll just go ahead and show you guys. So basically, sorry, this thing is in the way. Sorry, this Zoom bar gets in the way all the time. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to trends.google.com, right? You type in the industry. So for instance, when I was doing research, I typed in like dentist, right? What you do is you change it from past 12 months to 5 years, right? And then you want to just see the trend line. Is it steady or is it going up, right? You definitely don't want to pick one that's going down, okay? Now, here I did 4 different searches. These are all, you know, different industries that I was thinking of potentially, or just using as an example, right? So dentist, yoga, real estate, and I just put Beanie Babies for a reason, okay? Now, if you look, real estate was trending down over the past 5 years, even though there's markets where they're spiking up and stuff, but overall it's kind of trending down. And actually, you know, that was a bad sign, but I was like, okay, maybe I know the Bay Area still is pretty hot, so maybe I'll still check it out. Yoga, if you notice, is actually trending slowly upwards, right? And if you just think about the fact that more people do yoga than ever, that kind of makes sense, right? Dentist also was mostly steady, but slightly trending up. And then Beanie Babies had a little spike in 2004 and a little spike in 2009, but mostly is like dead flat, right? So I wouldn't start a business, marketing Beanie Babies. Next, after you've looked at that, and look, I'm teaching you this to do research just so you can start a gauge for yourself internally if it's making sense for you or not. Okay. Then what I did was I went to Facebook and I just literally typed in dentist, right? And then I'm looking, okay, how many groups are there for dentists, right? And how many people are in the groups in the top search results, right? In general, you want at least, a page of results that have, thousands of people in each group, and then what I did was I typed it in Twitter just to see how many people are talking about it. Are there dentists that are on Twitter that are talking? And I noticed that, there wasn't a lot. It was kind of, it was like, Beanie Babies. I was actually surprised how many groups had Beanie, but it was only like 5, and then it just like totally dropped. And also there was only like a few posts a day, but so basically the rule of thirds is that, the rule of thirds, going into my composition talk. So in terms of the rule of researching your niche is like, for Google, this trend has to at least be steady for 5 years, but trending upwards is better. Many pages and groups with 10K members up is a really good sign. And then in terms of tweets in your industry, if they're tweeting every few seconds to every 5 minutes, then that's a really good sign. Like, these are all indicators of like really positive for your niche. And then if you can get out of 3, you want at least 2. You want at least 2 of these to be fulfilled, right? Now, there's other ways to evaluate niches, and you could YouTube them and Google them. This is just a method that I determined for myself that's been helpful for me. In the end, you're going to have to end up just choosing the 1 or 2 that you want to go for, right? Now, some exceptions are that if there are niches that are emerging, like AI or things that are newer, like I would even argue cannabis is an emerging niche because it's not federally legal yet, right? That just means you have to be willing to grow and invest in that niche if you really want to do it. Like, I picked cannabis because I firmly believe that it will eventually be federally legal. And I decided that I want to be one of the top agencies in that industry before it becomes federal. So that way I'm already on top by the time everybody jumps on the bandwagon. You know what I mean? But I also understand that I'm going to have to pay my dues along the way. Also, if there's trends you want to take advantage of for a short period of time, then that's fine too. Like, if certain things pop up and you notice like it's hot for a year or whatever, then you can do that. Another exception is like, look, location is a niche. You could pick your city or your town and you could become the expert at video in that area and be known for that, and then just work with a variety of businesses and stuff like that. Typically, though, if you're going to become a location-based authority, then you're really working with small businesses, entrepreneurs and things like that. Not so much like big corporations. Now, in terms of sub niches, there are sub niches that you could approach. Like, they're just smaller segments of a market, right? So a big market is weight loss. A smaller market is post-birth women, right? A big market is mechanics. A smaller market is European car mechanics. Yoga, Bikram yoga. Tourism versus Southeast Asia tourism, right? So a sub niche has their own perspectives and problems. At this point for you guys, I wouldn't fully recommend picking a sub niche. I would still use the general niche as your branding, but you could also determine that, hey, I want to go after Bikram yoga instructors first, right? And start building that reputation with them. It'll still be portfolio in the yoga industry, but let's say you find out that Bikram yoga in particular is like extra expensive and like there's a lot of them in the area, and then if you build a reputation in that, maybe you'll kind of become a bigger fish in a small pond. There's nothing wrong with that. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's blaze through and then we get to the Q&A part in about 15 minutes. Basically, what's going to happen once you pick out your niche is you're going to create a product ladder, which a product ladder is offerings of services that escalate in price. Okay, so let me see. Oh, here it is. So basically, like any business can create a product ladder. By the way, you do it for yourself. You can teach your clients to do it, and then they'll be super excited. Basically, the way it works is it starts off with the bottom of the value ladder is something free. That's a hook that gets their attention, and then I'll give you examples. And then you go into the tier 1 price, which is basically an intro price project. That basically the point of it is to establish a relationship, right? And then the tier 2 price is something that is a short-term project that is for a specific goal. Obviously, it has to tie into their sales and marketing efforts. Tier 3 price is something that could take 3 months or more to come to fruition from the point of talking with them to closing the deal. Like, for instance, most of my commercial work and the things that I'm getting paid for, like, you know, $100,000 or something, it's never done in a month. Like, I've had them take up to 6 months before they close. You know, that's just the nature of the game. Some of them you can close quickly, actually, if they really, really want it. But a lot of times you're building a relationship and going back and forth. There's more moving parts in those because you're probably going to have to work with other departments potentially. And then the tier 4 pricing is like you're like a full service company, which, you know, you're probably working with other people to execute other areas, right? Like, for instance, I don't run Facebook ads. So if I'm going to do a full marketing campaign for somebody, I'm going to bring on somebody to run those ads for me, right? Now I'm going to give you an example of a video product ladder in the, I guess in any industry. So the free level would be like a free audit, consultation, or like a lead magnet. Like a lead magnet is basically anything of value that you could offer for free or for like cheap, like under 20 bucks. That could be like an ebook on, you know, the top 10 ways for restaurants to use video to build up their business, or a 3-part video series for dentists about, you know, how social media content builds up your customer base. You know, like anything that a lead magnet has to offer a perspective on a solution based on their problems, right? So every industry has problems. So a lead magnet for you guys would be like a free workshop on how to get your first $5,000 client, right? Like if you saw that as an ad, that would interest you, right? Because that's something you want. That's a problem that you have. By the way, I love your cat, Neil, on your shoulder. And then, you know, and then after that lead magnet, then, you know, the tier 1 would be like, you know, you could do promo videos, sizzles, social media, pitch videos, things that are like easy to do, that could be really cheap to make. You know, that could be anywhere in up to the $1,500 mark, let's say. Brand level, which is tier 3 or tier 2, sorry, is, you know, like a promo, advertisement, testimonial series, product demos. Like this is where we start getting to the meat of the things. And also you can jump straight to this depending on the person you're talking to. I'm just showing you an example of how you can, if you were to start at the free level of somebody, how you level up with the same client, right? Or in the industry. Commercial level is obviously like a commercial, meaning that they're going to pay not just for the video, but they're going to spend money on the actual distribution of it, that they're going to pay for Facebook ads or they're going to pay for airtime. And then the enterprise level is like doing everything for them, like, you know, figuring out the ad strategy, the creative, all that stuff. But mostly we're going to live like in these two tiers to start off, you know, or these 3, I guess. So an example of applying this to the dentist niche is you could give them a free 15-minute social media clip, which you could pull a template off online and you just literally swap out their logo and then you just send that to them, right? Then you can say, hey, I'll do a promo video for you for your website and Yelp. And then you could say, hey, let's do a testimonial video series where we get like, 5 of your best clients and we do before and after videos and testimonials. And I'll give you like, 5 30-second clips of them talking about how awesome your business is. And then the next level would be something like, hey, now that you've kind of created your branding and you kind of established yourself, like you want to get new clients, let's go ahead and do a video campaign where, we'll run Facebook ads and I'll create a commercial for you. And then you spend the money on the ads. But you're going to have to hire somebody to do it, blah, blah, or I'll refer you. And then enterprise would be like, okay, I'm just going to do all of it for you and just give me $10,000 and I'll put it in my pocket and I'll take care of all of it for you like a presto. Another example could be for music videos. You could do a free clip for a music artist. You could do get them to do a music video for super cheap, and then you could get their label to pay for it, and then the label could pay more, and then you could get sponsored deals and stuff like that. By the way, the music video industry is pretty fucked. Like it's super cheap. Like they don't spend money on it. Even the top music video directors get paid like nothing. I actually talked with one of the directors of the Daniels, who they did the movie Swiss Army Man recently, and they did a ton of music videos. I mean, they did for the biggest artists, and I asked him, I was like, dude, how much do you get paid? Like, dude, some of these videos, these top videos, they're like budgets like $50,000 or something. Like it's like nothing. So, and they get like paid nothing, but they just love it because they love the lifestyle. Another example for the fitness industry could be like, starting off with a brand video for them that goes on their website. You could do monthly social media content, which is kind of in the retainer realm. You could do an ad series, and then you could even manage their YouTube channel, IG, blah, 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 stuff like that. But the whole point of this exercise is just to teach you how to, is just to teach you how to think about product ladders. It's just basically a progression of products and services. And then the cool thing is when you meet people, you could place them on the product ladder. Like if they're ready for a commercial, you skipped some of the stages, right? But if you're going to build a portfolio from scratch, which I'm going to show you guys when I'm going to be building this cannabis niche, you can do stuff for free, to start off to get people's attention. So now the action is you want to create a product ladder in your niche, and you want to think about that. And what would you offer? How would you escalate your, your products and services in that niche, right? Now the reason why I'm teaching you this stuff is that you have to, when you're evaluating a niche before you start the work, you have to be able to visualize, is this niche going to grow with me? Like, am I going to grow with it? Is it going to make me more money as I spend time in it? Some niches, like they just stay where they're at, and maybe that's not what you want. Maybe it is what you want. For instance, weddings, they kind of cap out at a certain rate, and even the top wedding videographers, maybe they'll charge like 10,000 or something, which is pretty awesome if you're doing like 4 a month. That's a lot of money. And then the work becomes very predictable, and maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want an industry that you can go all the way up into the 6 figures. Like for instance, health industry is gigantic. There's a lot of money in the health industry, so that could be something where you can keep growing. So it really depends on you. But you're going to want to create a product ladder as an example for yourself. I have in this module, I have the actual examples, and then I have a blank one that you could do for yourself. Okay. And then once you've picked the niche that you're thinking of doing, and you can pick like maybe 2 or 3 that you're looking at, this is the crazy part. You're going to have to go out in the real world, and you're going to have to talk to somebody about it. Because like the rubber hits the road once you start talking to people. For instance, I picked dentists as one of the niches, but when I started talking to dentists, I realized I don't know if this is the niche I want, because it fit a lot of things that I thought worked. But then when I started talking to them, I realized I don't know if that's the area, if there's enough growth for me, or if the mentality. Like one dentist, my dentist, I called him and was like, hey, like, have you ever run Facebook ads and stuff like that? And he's like, yeah, like nothing works better than mailers. So I don't do anything anymore but mailers, because he only needs clients within a 5-mile radius. So he found a company that has literally everybody's address, and they just send fucking postcards. And he's like, there's nothing better than that. So I'm not going to do that again or pay for ads again. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe that's not what I want to go into, you know, maybe I don't want to compete with mailers, but you know, it's also just based on how you feel about it. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick your niches, you're going to do all this work, and then you're going to basically go through your Rolodex, and then you're going to start reaching out to people, and you're going to say, hey, can I just ask you some questions? Like, you're not selling them anything. You're not trying to get them as a client. You're just literally trying to get intel and finding out. You can go on message boards. I mean, there's different ways to get to the people you want to talk to. If you don't have any friends in the niche that you're thinking, then you're going to have to cold message businesses, or just become a customer and talk to them. Like, especially if you're in a local area, like when I was thinking about being a local, like focusing on local, I went to my local businesses and I just went in and started talking to people, especially businesses where I've been there for years and they know who I am. They're going to answer whatever question you want. You don't have to make it formal. You know what I mean? Just go in. And like, I went to my local comic shop and I was like, hey, Mike, I was thinking about starting a local like marketing business. Like, do you ever do that? Do you have a marketing budget? And blah, 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 and started learning from him, you know? So these are some questions that will help you discover, validate your niche. You know what I mean? Now, if you're really 100% confident and you really think it could work and you really want to do it, I would still recommend doing these questions, because the answers you get from these people are going to help you in the next phase, which is determining your branding and creating all your marketing and how you sell yourself. It all needs to come from the customers that you're targeting, okay? And also, this is a great way to start breaking yourself into the sales process without doing sales, because in the end, sales is really just about relationship building. It's about getting to know people and then finding a way to work together, a reason to work together. So, you know, basically, you know, that's a lot of stuff for you to do, which is write your story, figure out your goals, figure out your goal, put it on 3 Post-its, figure out your day rate, hourly rate, do the research and pick, you know, 1 or 2 niches. You can pick 3 if you want to research, and then figure out your product ladder, right, for those niches, because you got to be able to envision where you're going with it. And then you have to survey people in those niches, like at least, like, I don't know, 1 to 3 people in each niche. You know, 1 is not the best data point, by the way, because you don't want the one person that's like curmudgeon-y and is like, this industry sucks, so you don't want to do it, it's terrible. And then, you know, there's somebody else who's more younger and more happy and it's like, yeah, this is great, I can make a lot of money. So so like I said, this is basically it for today. Let's go into the Q&A, but it's a lot. We went through a lot today. All right, questions, guys.
I'll start off, I guess.
Okay, go for it.
So I've got 2 questions, and they're kind of like in the same ballpark.
Sure.
One is, when it comes to reaching out to people, I've asked people in like various Facebook groups and try to get people's opinions, but I'm curious about yours. When it comes to reaching out through email, do you think it's better to just, you know, script out, and not script, but like, you know, do obviously research about their business and what their needs are and everything, but just shoot them an email and chat with them? Or I've heard from some people that actually sitting down, if you're going to try to market your video services to them, sitting down and actually making a video, introducing yourself and sending that. You know, obviously if you shoot just write an email, you can do a lot more of those in a single day versus coming up with, you know, writing your own script, sitting down, filming a video, editing it, attaching it to the email and sending it out. Curious to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've seen both, and I think both have been successful. You know, I personally have never done the video outreach thing, just because don't want to spend that much time on it. I think also because the method in which I go is I try to go through referrals, and I go through people that are more warm leads or more warm, connections. I would try both, but in the end, like, the rule of thumb is that if you can't get somebody's attention in an email, you might not be able to get it in the video either. Because the principles that are that you would have to apply in building connection works either way. I think the video might be successful because it shows a level of effort, and it shows more sophistication and more personalization. I think the drawback to the video part though is like, like I know people who've done like 20 videos and they didn't get a response to any of them, and then it's like, oh, you just spent like days doing those videos and you didn't get a response. It's like, is that worth your time? Usually to me that points to, they're not really saying the right thing, and they're not sending it to the right people. So that's why like the research phase is even more important than the outreach phase in a lot of ways. But I'm going to create video outreach things just as a case study for this challenge anyways. So I'll be doing that. But I do think that if you just structure an email properly, you'll get the response you want. So I would start with emails and then see how that works for you, and then try video maybe after the first batch of emails, or you could do like 80-20 where you send them both out and just A/B test it and see what works.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And the second question is, and again, it's just something I've asked in multiple video Facebook groups and such, is that when you're trying to reach out to a client, cold calling essentially, offering to do, the first video free versus doing it at a very discounted rate. So if you say, normally I charge $5,000 for this, but I'll do it for you for $1,000 or $500 versus doing it for free. I've heard people say, don't do free work, because then they're not going to value, what you provide to them. And then if you try to charge, they'll say, well, you did the first video for me for free. Why won't you do more videos for me for free? Versus, saying, hey, I charge lower, but, I'll do this one cheaper for you. They'll be like, well, why should I pay you, anything?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. What I was going to say, I've had that problem actually just yesterday. So what I did was I wrote out what my full rate would usually be in the invoice. And then at the very end, because I was referred to the job by a mutual friend, I just put in Johnny special discount. And it happened, I just made sure it was whatever the difference was between what I needed to, if I was charging normally, and what I was actually getting paid. So yeah, you can apply like just bullshit discounts if you need to show that this is what I usually charge. This is a first time waiver fee or something.
Yeah, so I think first of all, like you could do either or. It's just a matter of how you frame it, right? So for instance, you will get more responses if you offer a free video initially, right? But you obviously don't want to just do free videos for a bunch of people. So for instance, when I was starting the real estate niche, what I told people is like, look, I'm looking for 3 to 5 clients that I'm willing to do a free video for as a case study to build my portfolio, because I'm starting in the real estate niche. I'm starting a new division for the real estate niche. Please refer anybody you want. Now, what's happening there is I'm already capping it, saying I'm only going to do 3 to 5 for free, right? And then when I have the discovery call with the person, I'm telling them, like, I'm not taking everybody. Like, this is a call to see if it's mutually beneficial. So I'm going to pick the ones that I think are best for my portfolio. And then now they want to be approved for that free video, right? So you have to, when it comes to free work, you have to, the reason why people are unsuccessful with free work is they just give out free work without putting conditions on. When you're doing the free work, you need to be in complete control of every phase, because you're the one offering value for free. They're not doing you a favor, you're doing them a favor, right? And so during that phase, when the way that you screen these people out is you want to find out, first of all, their attitude. You want to find out if they are valuing you, because what I noticed is that even if it's free, if they're not expressing gratitude and understanding that what you're doing is valuable, then they usually don't turn into a paying client. They don't turn into a good client, right? So they have to have the right personality for you, that they understand the value they're getting, they're not taking it for granted. And then you ask questions that qualify them, like, look, do you have a marketing budget, by the way? Right? Like, you might take this video for free, but are you spending any money on marketing? And if they say no, they might not be the client for you because they're not going to grow with you, right? But if they say yes, then the question you follow up with is like, okay, well, if you're happy with this video, would you be willing to pay for the next project, assuming that you're happy with this one? And then they should be saying yes very enthusiastically. If they hesitate or they say no, maybe they're not the right client for you again. The last part I'll say about the free project offering is that there is a way to start off with a free offer and still get paid by the end of it. And that way is by asking them, okay, like, based on what they need, because a lot of times they'll start off and you could say, well, hey, this free video I'm offering is just like a 30-second promo video or something really easy to do. And then they might have an idea that costs more money. That's like, oh, but I need this instead. I need a brand commercial that's like 2 minutes with customer testimonials. And then what you would say is, you would say, okay, well, look, if I do the work for free, would you at least pay for the labor and cost of the equipment and like the editing and stuff, right? Like, would you be willing to pay the cost of the video as opposed to paying me for everything, right? So then you could start separating the cost of the project into your cost, the cost for editing, even if you're doing the editing, but the editing is a separate cost, let's say equipment rental, paying for actors, all that stuff, whatever it is, you just start breaking it down into the different sections of what the costs are, and then asking them, like, look, you can get my time for free. I won't charge you anything for no matter how many consultations we have to have or for me being on set or whatever, but would you be willing to pay the cost of the video? And then you could work backwards in terms of what those costs are. So, I've been able to start off with free projects, and then by the end of the consultation, they end up agreeing on paying something for it. And then it's not free anymore. But the point is, the hook was free, right? Now, the catch there is, if you offer a free video and they're the right client, you have to pick people that you are also willing to do a free video for, because it's clearly good for your portfolio. But I don't think, I still put in those factors of, do they appreciate the work I'm offering? Do they have a marketing budget? Are they willing to spend money on me if they're happy with this? Like, those are kind of the three things that if they don't say yes to those, then they have to be like an amazing freaking company for me to consider doing a free video for them. So I think it's a little bit like Pretty Woman. Have you guys seen Pretty Woman? There's a scene where, like, Richard Gere's friend finds out she's a prostitute, and he like goes up to her at the thing and treats her like a prostitute. He's like, hey, let's go out and bone or whatever. And she gets so mad. And Richard Gere's like, but you are a prostitute. And then she's like, but I choose when, and I choose who, and I choose where. And she's basically saying, I need agency over myself, right? Like, she's saying, I may be doing this for money, but I get to be in control of that. And that's what you're essentially saying with the free video. Now, when it comes to offering a deal, the challenge there is you definitely don't want to come off like, hey, I'm going to pretend like I normally charge $10,000 so that you'll pay me $5,000 for this, right? Like, that's also a bit of a negative. So again, you just have to show conditions so that they realize that you are asking for something for them. So that means, hey, I'll give you a discount only if you also give me a testimonial at the end. Hey, I'll give you this discount, but I'm only giving it to the first 3 people during the month of April. You know what I mean? And you have to apply by XYZ date. The more that you start putting conditions that it doesn't look like you're just giving it out to anybody like Halloween candy, then the more that they trust that there is the value in there, and they're willing to like jump through hoops. So in a weird, subtle psychological way, when you put conditions, you retain control, and then it actually makes them want to meet those requirements more. You know what I mean? Does that make sense, Eric?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Okay, cool. And we'll be experimenting with trying both of those tactics. Neil is asking, create exclusive. Yes, create exclusivity. You want to make them feel like you're bringing them into this opportunity and this club that you're creating just for them. Josh, did you have a question?
I kind of just wanted to piggyback on like the free work there.
Mhm.
So with that, I want to say it was December. This one company posted on Facebook. They were a restaurant near me, and they were looking for video work to be done.
Mhm.
And so I reached out to them, and we agreed that we would do the first video for free because he wanted to do a series, and
Yep.
we both wanted to essentially feel each other out, see if we're going to be a good fit to work with each other and everything.
Yep.
The video I provided him, he liked the video, and we were going to schedule to do another video.
Mhm.
But the price point that I quoted him at, well, first of all, when we were talking about getting the free video, he said that they don't have a budget for marketing. They have no idea how much marketing is going to cost and everything.
Mhm.
And so that should have been the first red flag.
Right. Right.
But then we did the free video, and I mean, we've worked really well with each other. Things went smoothly. Video came out great. He liked it. Then we were supposed to do another video. He didn't like the price. He wanted to do it for this price. And eventually we came to a decision and like agreed upon a price. And then I never heard from him again. And
Okay.
so
How long ago was that?
that was like January.
So you came down to the price that he asked for, and then he
I
disappeared.
didn't come down to the price he asked for. We talked about it and came to a price that we agreed upon. And then I did not hear anything from him after that.
Got it. So in general, like if there's price resistance, then what I will tell people is like, look, I could work on the budget you want potentially. I could reverse it, engineer it for you. You just have to tell me what you're comfortable with, what your desired project range is, and then let me figure out what I could do for you. And then what you just start doing is you start restricting, you create more restrictions on what they get. You know what I mean? It's like based on the number you gave me, yeah, I could work with you, but you're not going to get this, you're not going to get that. Like you're going to get, what you want to do is you want to point to the things that you will do, how it still is tied to their goals and their needs, but you're just not giving them the extra bells and whistles because you're going to start cutting out the extra things that you would do if they paid more. What I would do at this point with him is I would just circle back one more time. Best way to do it would be to find something of value that you could email them, like let's say an article on a restaurant that's doing well, or maybe an Instagram account for a restaurant that's doing well with content, and then say, hey, like, I came across this and I thought of you. Just want to check in with how you're doing. And then a lot of times I'll just even like call out like the thing in a friendly way, like, hey, I was thinking, maybe I know that don't have a big marketing budget, and I was thinking maybe you had some buyer's remorse related to what we negotiated. Because I want to build like a long-term relationship with you, I'd be willing to kind of talk to you about seeing how we could still achieve your goals at something that's more comfortable for you. Like, let me know what you think. And if you do that in a friendly way, like they will, most of the time they'll respond, unless there's some other reason why they disappeared that you don't know, like they found somebody else or something like that. But like, for instance, I had a startup client recently that they went like silent on me after like a really good meeting. And it's because after I sent them the proposal, they were just quiet. And then I just literally was like, hey, I'm guessing that this is probably out your price range. Like, let me know like what you think about this. And then they were like, yeah, it is out of our price range, but we could do something for, like 25,000 or something. And then I was okay, let me, cause I think I sent a $50,000 proposal or whatever. And I was like, all right, let me think about that. Let me work backwards. And then he ended up hooking me up with his marketing director, and we actually hammered out a new deal. And then they ended up agreeing to it. So again, every step of the way though, you want to be in control of not agreeing to something you don't want to do, but just be flexible in terms of it's not so much about the number of the budget of the project, it's the budget in relation to how much work you have to do for it, right? So if the smaller the budget, the less work you do. That's a good question.
And then
yeah.
one more thing on that.
Sure.
So now to the point of where I want to talk about gear in a sense.
Yep.
On that same shoot, so he's worked with the local TV companies, And you know, TV companies, they'll have their big cameras, like oversized cameras. And so I have a EOS R.
Yeah.
And when I showed up with that, though, he was almost like he wasn't impressed that I brought a mirrorless camera with me, because since he worked with TV stations, news stations.
Yeah.
So what would you say in sense of that if you bring some gear along with you and they weren't impressed, even though it was a free video? Uh, I don't know. What would you do in a situation like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced that before. I think people equate bigger camera to bigger production value. I think, you know, if they mention it, then, well, there's a couple ways you can handle it. Number one, as I would be telling them like that the quality of cameras have leaped so much that, you know, this mirrorless camera actually creates better quality than like, you know, a traditional broadcast camera, which is gigantic but doesn't have the same level of quality. Also, you can build it out a little bit more, but I would also tell them like, look, you know, like I could bring the big camera, but I usually rent that. You know, it costs money. So based on your budget, you know, you're gonna get the best quality for your budget regardless. Um, and just be confident and say, look, I can show you the end quality of the video. And then you could even, what you could do is you could find other videos or commercials that were shot with the same camera and be like, look, if this company used this camera for this production, look at this quality. It's not, technology is advanced to the point where it's not about the size of the camera. It's about how you do the lighting. It's about the lenses you use and stuff like that. And unfortunately, yeah, sometimes like Robbie's saying, the impression is the camera. Like, I remember there was a point where I would actually bring my old CCD camera with the DSLR just so that they saw the big camera. I'll be like, hey, this one sucks, by the way. Like nobody uses this anymore. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think just it's about being confident about like why the quality is just as good or better, and then being armed, backing, be able to back it up with data points or examples, and then that's going to be, you know, the best way to respond. Yeah. Yeah. Next, any other questions, guys?
So I had a
have,
sorry,
Who is that?
Oh, go ahead.
no, I'll ask after you. Sorry, you can go ahead. You spoke first.
Okay. Well, I have two very quick ones, which is well, one, it's like I had this idea, so I'd like to know what you know, which it kind of blends the lead magnet with the CTA, you know, either on your website or anything. Basically, what I'm saying, I'm thinking of always just offering a 15-minute marketing consultation, you know, and just get them on a call, so I could work by magic. So yeah, I'm thinking just using that all the time. You know, website, cold, lead magnet, everything. What do you think of it?
You know, the consultation thing is tough because everybody does the consultation for free. The consultation is just a way for you to decide if you want to like trying to convince them to hire you. So
I thought I would word it like the strategy for their company, kind of, you know.
Yes,
like
so that's what I was about to say. So you have to offer value in that consultation. Like, hey, I'm going to, what I'll do is I'll do no obligation, no fee, 15-minute brainstorming strategy where if I can add value to your business in that 15 minutes, then we can discuss further possibilities, right? You have to give them something. You have to be able to take away. And even then, I would probably create a lead magnet, like a 10 or 20 page PDF explaining your strategy, or explaining like video marketing strategies that they already see the value in what you're saying before they even, to get them to want to schedule a strategy call. You know what I mean? Because like I wouldn't get on a strategy call with somebody unless I felt like I could already see from their content that they know what they're doing. Because otherwise they're just wasting my time, or they might waste my time, and people are afraid of that, you know?
But maybe in the website it can work though, no? If it's like all
Yeah, you can
very
have on the
nice and-
website, you can have a page on your website that says, hey, like here's the strategy, here's like a free, you know, it could be a page or a PDF or a download or whatever, but it could just be like, hey, here's a breakdown on like the top 10 strategies for, you know, product companies on making create content online or whatever it is. But the point is, you have to actually have real value that you're offering, that you're sharing with people to make them, what you're looking for is you got to give them an aha moment where they're just like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. That's true. That's a good idea. That's a cool strategy. Or I didn't know about that company that's doing this thing. Like, and if you could do that, then they're going to be interested in talking to you more, because then they're going to think there's some sort of, you know, special sauce, secret sauce that they're going to get from you.
Okay.
If I could jump in real quick just to help add a little bit more to what you just said, Henry.
Yeah.
One thing, when I was first looking to get into like the fitness niche, but I kind of realized it's not really an area that interests me, I met with a few people, and one of the things that I offered in the free you know, the quote unquote consultation that everyone offers, is I always gave them, you know, 2 or 3 little ideas of types of content that they can easily make themselves for free that maybe they didn't think of. So for one of the guys to the fitness, it didn't work out because his expectations were like through the roof for like, you know, a super low price. And it was like, that's not possible. But one of the things I told him, he was a fitness and like, you know, workout guy. And I was like, hey, you could easily make Instagram videos that are like, hey, here, you know, here are the top 3, you know, biggest mistakes I see people when they do push-ups, and here's how you can easily correct them, and do that in 60 seconds, like how to fix your posture, how to, you know, these are the 3 things you need to do to get the perfect push-up every time. And that's not something that took away from me, because that's not really the content that I would be making for him if he were to hire me, but that's something that he could easily do himself, and that was like super valuable to him.
Right. So a lot of times you just want to give them something that they can wrap their head around, that makes them have a new idea or a new takeaway, and then that will thereby transfer into your authority as you know, being somebody that can consult for them or be trustworthy, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a great example. So again, Vasco, really focus on, like, before you even ask for a strategy session or a consultation, like figuring out what can you offer of value to them that will make them want to do that. Because one thing you have to remember when you're marketing is it's always getting them step by step to the next thing. So for instance, like a Facebook ad, something somebody said to me is like, a Facebook ad, the purpose isn't to sell the product. The purpose is to get them to click. And then when they click, then the purpose of that is to sell the product, right? So too many people think they have to sell the product in that first stage, but actually they just need that next action, which is clicking. So if the first action you're asking someone is to schedule a call, you actually have to do the thing to convince them to schedule a call. The call in itself is not the thing that's going to convince them to click. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No shortcuts allowed.
Yeah, well, they don't know you well enough yet. You don't have a reputation as a brand where they're going to want to schedule a call just because of your reputation. Like, you have to show the value to build that reputation.
Right.
So come up with the lead magnet. The free strategy session is not a lead magnet in itself.
All right. Okay.
Neil, did you have any other questions, by the way? Because I know it's super late for you. I want to be able to, you know, get you to have your questions out before.
It's super early, actually. I haven't slept. What's the word? No, I don't really have any questions per se. I'm very actively listening on everything, absorbing all of it, and I need to drill into my head. Absolute focus on one. I need to drill into my head because I'm spreading myself too thin, and I didn't realize that before I joined the call today.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very clear to me now.
Good. So you have a win already. I love it. Okay, Ravi, I think you had something you wanted to say, right?
Yeah, related to like niche. I tried like you remember we talked about photography, and I talked to like a couple of people because of a photographer friend of mine who I made a video for.
Yes.
And this wasn't like a sales meeting or anything, so they knew like I'm not selling anything. It was just like this was at a birthday, someone's birthday, and she had her friends. And so I asked them about video, like would they be open to like doing videos for their photography business. And over the next few weeks, the answers that I started getting, like how it was with you and dentistry as a profession, I started realizing these people are not, they're not, I guess it's because there's some overlap between photography and video. They think that they can just
Do it
roll video on
themselves.
a tripod
Yeah.
rather than get me
Yeah.
and pay even 500 for that.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, that's kind of struck out from that. You have to strike that out. So in the sense that in my area at least. So if I find that my areas of knowledge are not really things I can monetize on, I guess we just have to like, and you know, these things are not working out. This is stuff that I've tried. I had one that I thought was possible, like photography. Then we have to just create areas of opportunity, I guess. Is that are you is this are you going to cover like it? How do we go about?
So
creating-
I think that I'm tracking what you're saying. I think what you want to do then is you want to say it's an area of interest and an area that you're willing to invest building the knowledge in that industry, right?
right.
So if you don't have it, then you could still build it. It just means that you're willing to commit the time to actually learning about that industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for you, I think, you know, because of your situation, you're not that far from a big city, right?
No, not really.
So you actually have the ability to pick multiple niches. So I would actually start doing research in, is it Toronto or
Yes, Toronto.
yeah. So I would start researching what are the top industries in Toronto? What are the businesses that are making money and then figure out if there's one that you're willing to invest time in learning, you know?
Okay.
But it is a big city, so I think you have a lot of options there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's not an area you already have knowledge in, pick one that you're willing to invest the knowledge in, that you would be satisfied that no matter what, even just becoming an expert or learning about that will add value to your own life somehow, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
All right, we got like 5 minutes left. Let's try and get through. Any other questions? Tim, you got one?
Yeah, I got one. So the only question I had was the 4 action items that were developed in this
Yes.
during this time. How do we just submit it via email? Are we having a central location or a repository?
Yeah, oh, that's a good point. I guess what I could do for you is I'll make a challenge folder, and I'll make a folder for each of you, and I'll share it with you, and you could put it in there. But really, you just want to be able to share it next week, you know? So I'm just gonna write it down here so it's clear to everybody. 1, write your story. Write goal on 3 Post-its. Write your day hourly. Niche research exercise. And that's basically pick 2 to 3 to explore. 5 is create product ladders for each niche. 6 is talk to survey 1 to 3 people. So you can see how much work is required that it makes you hesitant to do 3. Right? So it's like, it's a lot of work. So I would maybe say 1 to 2, but you could do up to 3 if you're ambitious. But you know, this is a challenge. So this is the cool part, is that, you know, if you do this, I guarantee you by the end of this process, you're going to know more and have more clarity on what you could potentially do in the next phase. And so again, Remember, your best is your new norm. So that's what you want to do, is try your best. And at the same time, like, look, this is not my life. So if you guys don't do it by next week, it doesn't really affect me personally. But I'll be able to help you more the more that you. It's like Jerry Maguire, help me, help you, help me, help you. Just do the work, and then I will help you go to the next level. Like I will. So, great. Any other? Let me make a note. Send folder for each. Okay. Any other questions?
Working backwards a little bit, just on a lighter note, when we were distinguishing features and benefits, and you were talking about that model of Mercedes that strokes you while you drive. What model is that?
That's the one coming out in 2050. You know. Actually, that must have been a subconscious plan, because when I was a kid, I remember one of my friends, I think I was in junior high, he had found a freaking comic book about a car like Knight Rider, like a kit, but it like was also his lover. It was like weird. I was like, what the fuck is this? It must have planted in my head somewhere when I said that. But it was like had like a little tube that come from the top, and it's like, oh, that's your love thing. It was about a guy that never left his car, basically. It was a weird comic. He was a weird friend, by the way. So I don't want to blame him though.
That was all good fun. I just thought it was
I
really
know.
funny when you mentioned it. So
I'm sure it'll come out eventually, you know. There'll be probably some GTA version game where you just plug in your whole body into the experience, you know.
yeah, fun experience. Oh man.
All right. Anybody else? Are we good?
The only question I had, and it doesn't relate to the course or anything, but I was just curious, do you know Michael Bellardi by chance? He works more in the TV realm.
I don't. It sounds somewhat familiar, but I can't. Let me see if I would know his face. Is he?
He's on International Movie Database. If you just search his name, it should pop up.
Oh, Bellardi. Oh, yeah, he's I see. I feel like I've. Actually, I'm not sure.
Okay. No, I was just curious because him and I'm actually working with him on a few things right now, and in the works with some things. So I was just kind of curious if you knew him or not.
No, I don't know if it's my brain telling me, making it up, that he seems familiar, or if he really is familiar. But yeah, that's cool. If you have opportunity with him, you could definitely build your reputation off of your collaboration, you know.
Yeah, so I don't know, I was just curious. So
Yeah.
I know it's a big realm with
Definitely a
video
big
and
industry. I
everything,
definitely
so
don't know everybody. I'm
Yeah.
more familiar with people from either California or New York, I would say.
so like Nick Martini from Step Studios or Step Productions.
Mm-mm,
You don't know him?
no. Where is he from?
Step Productions does a lot of like sports related things. They first started out as a ski movie company, and then they turned themselves over, and now they're working with like I just saw on there like Ford Bronco. They did a thing for. They're working with Oakley and sometimes Red Bull.
Oh, I see. No, I don't. You know what? There's a lot of these popping up now with a lot more people than ever in terms of like director studios and stuff like that. I'm trying to see if I'm looking at their website. I'm seeing if I recognize any of their actual work. It looks cool though. This Oakley looks pretty awesome.
You know, I knew of them because I was neighbors with the pro skier who was associated with that company like 10 years ago.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work actually. This is pretty good stuff. Yeah, I'll definitely check them out.
Okay.
If you know them, you should try and get work with them, you know?
I don't know them personally. I just reached out to them, just doing some outreach things, and I was surprised because I emailed the general Step Studios email, and then Nick actually emailed me back, and he sent me like 1 or 2 emails back, which I thought was pretty cool that the owner of that company actually reached out to me.
Yeah, so the best way to build a connection with people like that is stay in touch. And the best way to stay in touch is, instead of just asking for stuff, is like just support them somehow. So like showing them that you're interested and that you're supporting them in any way is always a great way to do it. And then just, being straight up saying like, look, I'm sure a lot of people want to work with you, and I work really hard, and like I'd be willing to basically take on anything that you need, even if it's the most like menial job that's not even like handling a camera or something. Because one of the things, like for instance, that I hate hearing is somebody reaches out to me and they're like, "Oh, I want to be like let me do like a camera thing for you or whatever." And it's like, I already have people I work with that I know, that I trust, that do all that stuff. So it's like, you kind of have to be willing to take less to get more eventually. Like I have a kid that he reached out when I was looking for like commercial, I think ACs or something, and then he reached out on Facebook and was like, hey, like I'll do like behind the scenes videos for free if you want. And it's like, I happen to be needing that too, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll let you do that. And then um he was worked really hard, and then he was really good, and I was like, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, oh, I want to be an AC. And then I was like, okay. And then when I had a small job, I let him be an AC. And then he ended up becoming an AC on like some national commercials that I did. You know what I mean? And that really was just from him. Like when you're reaching out to somebody that's like really successful, or just above, your level, is like, the more that you go in humble and then you're willing to do anything, like sweep the floor kind of mentality, then they're going to see that. And people invest in attitude more than anything else, right? Like people invest in people that they believe in. And the best way to do it is to give them the least resistance to finding a way to work with you, right? If the people who go in and they're like, oh, I want to do this, like they have a specific role that is their goal and they're not willing to do anything but that, those are the ones that don't get that free opportunity. Because why would somebody choose them when they already have other people that do that job that they trust,
Yeah.
right? Like there's no benefit. So it's really more about finding that opportunity to get in, and then um you know uh like work your ass off and show the right attitude, and then they will literally give you the opportunity. I actually have a friend who he he's a great networker, but he literally went into the studios that did John Wick. I forgot the name.
Okay.
It's like the stunt studios. He lives in LA. And he literally went in and just started talking to them and was like, look, I will sweep your floors if you want. Like, I will do anything. So they had him sweep floors in the beginning. Like, he just cleaned up the fucking studio for them. But then he ended up becoming like a production assistant and started working with them on projects and building relationships. And it's like, you know, you just have to know where you're at in relation to like what you're going to get out of the connection that you make. And so just being humble and willing to do it. I mean, when I started out, I had the mentality, I was like, look, I'm going to do anything I need to do to learn. Like, I don't care what it is. I'll be a PA, I'll get coffee, and I've done all that stuff, you know what I mean? And I think that mentality puts you in a better position to like grow quickly, because again, people see that, like especially producers and people like, creative directors and people of agencies and production companies working on commercials. Like, you really pay attention to all the people that you give an opportunity to, and at every level, and see how they respond. And you're constantly gauging, okay, this person did that, we're going to give them more opportunity. Like I had somebody that I gave a PA position, and then he ended up becoming like the production coordinator, which is like kind of like the head of the PA departments. But then also there was a moment where he was driving the van and he was like speeding, because he loves to drive fast, he loves fast cars and stuff. But like we're like in a production and he's like speeding and I'm like, dude, slow down, man. Like this, like you're driving like a fucking passenger van. It's like he's throwing people around on the inside, and he like didn't listen to me, and he was just like, oh, I got it. I'm like, oh no, you don't have it. Like you don't even have a job after this. You know what I mean? Because you don't have the mentality that is required to grow. You know what I mean? Like he had a mentality to get past a certain stage, but just know that they're always going to be judging you, and it's really always based on your attitude and your willingness to learn and grow. You know, and then look, if they're douchey, because there's also on the flip side, there's producers and people that take advantage of others and are suck, like then you have the ability to leave. But in general, if they're like a good person, they're gonna reward you for having the right attitude. Comment, Tim?
Yeah, on that topic of just knowing people and you know, making that introduction to offer your services, even if it's
Yeah.
just like, you know, being any kind of helpful. In the beginning of your podcast on Videography Academy, I think your second guest, Justin Andrews, he's also from Providence, Rhode Island. You know, so small world, and also I wanted to be in the industry. I was just gonna ask, like, how did you guys link up?
That was through Brian, who was with me in the beginning of Videography Academy. That was his friend. Or no, I think Brian started doing research and just started reaching out to people. I don't know. I think he might have known him actually. I think he might have been a friend and was like, hey, you should interview him. I could ask him to intro you to him if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I could ask. I'll ask if that was his contact. And then, you know, we live in a digital age. You'd be shocked at how many people you can actually
Connect with.
yeah. I mean, I have a friend. He's a pretty successful DP now, but when he started, he bought a Red camera and he made a video introducing himself and talking about why he's a DP, why he wants to do music videos, explaining that he bought this camera, all this stuff, and he sent it to Macklemore's team, and then he actually ended up on the team helping them, and then started doing camera operating for them. And then he ended up DPing videos for like Logic, and like, you know, he just like you just have to put yourself out there. And I think if you're just authentic and you're humble and you're willing to work hard and you're cool then about that, then you start to get opportunities that you'd be surprised that you would be able to get. But you don't get them unless you try, you know.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've got a bit of a weird one. So Friday
About
night,
a car that makes love to you? Just kidding.
No, no, I got rear-ended my car's in a shop for a while. It's why it took a while to pay you. Anyway, so Friday night, I got referred by a friend of mine who's out shooting a documentary in Uluru. So local club manager for a footy team needed someone to shoot their home game because apparently they have a list of photographers like they have a list of contractors, but all of them were too busy or incompetent. So I fill in. And he has liked my results and my work ethic enough that he is trying very hard to argue with the club managers that they need just 1 or 2 people on a permanent basis for all their home games.
Oh, nice.
At industry rates. And I'm wondering, he sounds like a very smart, resourceful man. I should just probably trust him, let him do his negotiation. But if there is an in here for me to do more as their club media person down the line, how should I tackle that conversation, assuming I get just a photography gig once every 2 weeks?
Tackle the conversation if they've awarded it, or tackle the conversation to try and get them to award it?
Either way, because I'm not sure what the timeline is on when they have those meetings and decide whether or not they want me on board long term. Because it was just a fill-in job that I did.
What I would do is I would make it very easy for him. I would contact him and say, look, I just want to say thank you for even putting me up for this. I totally understand that it's not in your control fully. So if they decide no, like obviously as long as you consider me, put me on the list for any overflow, like I'm happy to do that. Also, I'm happy to help out in any other way. Like if you just need a helping hand, like I'm willing to be there. Like and then you can even, if you really want to show the extra level of effort, what you could do is you could brainstorm some ideas of different marketing or projects or things that they could do for the club, and say like, look, I'm so excited that I just want to show you that I've been thinking about it, and here's some ideas that, take it or leave it. It's just me showing you that I'm willing to put in the effort to be part of the team and invest in their success, you know. And yeah, and then I would close out by saying, like, look, if there's anything you need from me to help give you a better like support to sell me or whatever it is, like, let me know. Like, I'm willing to do it. Like, if you need me to shoot something spec, or if you want me to come up with a plan, like whatever it is, I'm willing to do it, you know.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very useful.
You know, a secret strategy I use for people is I just ask them, what is it going to take to get their business, or like, what is it going to take for them to support me? And then if they tell you, then yeah, you just start doing it, and then they end up having to give it to you.
Well, in this case, I already know the answer, and he wanted someone who was reliable to work with and at least competent, and I exceeded both those expectations. So I've already ticked that box off.
Good. So then just think about what else you could do even more to surprise and delight him, you know? What would be even better than that, you know?
Oh.
Be like, look, in 2050, there's going to be this car model that I'm going to send over to you. You know, but also think about, in all seriousness, think about how you can, you know, okay, when you're working through people, you know what it is? Your job is to make sure that they look good. The reason why he's referring you is because you made him look good, right? So you want to think about other ways you can make him look good or make him be better in his position. And so you could ask him how to do that, and you could have some ideas on how to do that. You know, you could offer some ideas.
That's very appreciated. Thank you, Henry.
No problem. All right, last round. Any questions before we sign off for today? And we'll be back next week, same time. Good. All right. Yeah. Josh, you got a question?
I was just going to say thank you for everything, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Appreciate it. Hopefully it was a helpful session for you.
Definitely.
Good. I'll post the video up on in the Facebook challenge group as you go through your action items. If you have questions, go ahead and post them in the group, and I'll be monitoring and answering. And then I'll see you again next week. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, guys.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Have a good week.